And here we are again for a Wednesday webinar. Marnie, you know what I've been doing lately? I've been doodling. You probably can't see this, but this is my doodle paper. I need a pencil and a paper today because I'm going to take spurious notes. We have right. We have an. I just pulled out an SAT word, I think. Um, we have an amazing guest today, Marnie, and I know that you're as excited as I am because what are we talking about today?
Something I am a massive failure at. Self-care and mental health care first for me. I'm not good at it. So I will also be taking lots of handwritten notes in my doodling as well.
Good call. Well, I think, Marnie, it's because we are teachers, and as a teacher, it's so hard sometimes to take time for ourselves, right?
Yes, and then you compound that if you happen to be a parent and a teacher, it adds to it.
There it is. There it is. I just saw Cindy Varden on. Thanks for being here, Cindy. She's fantastic. She knows what it's like to teach lots of children, and also helps out with our doctoral programs here at GCU. So glad that you could make it, Cindy, and so many others who are online. Marnie, I don't know. Jackie Strickling has got some really powerful tools today. And so I want to make sure that everybody knows to have that piece of paper, maybe a couple papers ready and a pencil at least. She's got some fun tips and tricks up her sleeve. Is there anything I'm missing, Marnie, for what's going to happen today?
No, just no. I think we're ready to go, and I'm ready to learn. So I'm gonna sign off my video and let you roll.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, everybody, this is being recorded. So if you miss something, it will be posted on our YouTube channel at bit.ly/K12EdDev. Let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about self-care for teachers. Yes, we have to take care of that person, the leader in the classroom. So we want to maintain motivation and creativity while we take care of ourselves. Please jump in the chat. Tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about you. Maybe how you're doing right now. We've had a lot of challenges and love to know what you're thinking. We are GCU's Canyon Professional Development, happily entertaining an expert in the field today, a high school counselor. We'll get to this in just a second. We are PD with purpose. And we couldn't do this without our amazing team. Amanda's here with you today running ops, as is Shonda Hinton. So if you need anything at all technologically speaking, please let us know. And of course, you've already seen Marty and Carolyn will be on as well. I am Corey Araza, the STEM Outreach Director for K-12. I do have 17 plus years experience in the high school classroom and lots of great experience teaching kiddos and let's see, running on empty sometimes. So I hope that you're not totally running on empty, but if you are, coach and counselor Jackie Strickling has a lot to tell you today. Jackie, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself for us, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me on today. I'm very excited. My name is Jackie Strickling. I've been a high school counselor for 11 years in the Paradise Valley Unified School District, and I'm currently at Paradise Valley High School. And I'm also an adjunct professor. So I work with the PVCC Community College and Ottawa University, which I really love. So as far as my background goes, I do have a master's degree in professional counseling, a master's in sport and exercise psychology, and I'm currently pursuing my PhD in general psychology with an emphasis in industrial and organizational psychology at GCU. Woo. So,
thank you.
Yep. I do also hold some ASCA certifications, and ASCA stands for the American School Counselor Association, and I am a specialist in areas of closing the achievement gap, leadership, data specialist, and managing anxiety.
Okay, that's a lot of things that you take care of, Jackie. I can only imagine how hard it might be for you to take care of yourself. But thank you for being here today to help us know what we can do to take care of ourselves as teachers, as educators, as superintendents, as principals, those people who are taking care of children right now. It's been a tough road. So I want to say, each one of our guest experts kind of chooses a quote to get our learning started for us today. So Jackie, if you wouldn't mind explaining why you chose this quote, what it is, and what it means to you.
Absolutely. So I think, in the current time that we're going through, these unprecedented times in society, Brene Brown says it great. In a society that says put yourself last, self-love and self-acceptance are almost revolutionary. And I think that is key right now for us as teachers, counselors, administrators, that we do need to put ourselves first during these times so that we can actually help our students be successful. Brene Brown is amazing. She's been studying courage for many years. So just a little shout out for her. If you have time, I would watch her Netflix series, The Call to Courage.
I love Brene Brown. She does research on worthiness, and I thought that was such a unique thing to research, something that we don't talk about, but is so prevalent in our world. So thank you so much for bringing her up, and thank you for getting us started today. Folks, we are going to learn how to improve your self-care first so that you can care for your students. Don't forget to have a pen and paper handy. You will be learning 3 strategies interactively that allow you to put yourself first. You'll learn building resiliency and avoiding burnout, control what you can control, and then set boundaries to reduce stress and increase productivity. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Don't forget to stick around, evaluate the webinar, and earn a PD certificate at the end of our webinar today. So getting started right in here, Jackie, Marnie and I came up with a really cool tool, and I know that we kind of introduced it to you. So I wanted to make sure, and I know that you actually have worked with it now. So we are all going to become SuperBetter. So we always like to start out our webinars with a simple tech tool that we believe aligns with what our guest expert is talking about today. And today, let's get SuperBetter. So without further ado, I think Amanda popped that into the chat for us. So go ahead and click on that link, and then you can follow along with what I've got going here. If you've ever heard Jane McGonigal's talk about how video gaming can make you smarter, you got to check it out. Marnie, I know you and I looked at this talk a while back. I want to say it's at least 3 years old. But Jane McGonigal, how cool is this? She's taken her video game fame and created a video game to make ourselves better with resilience. And she says here that it starts with resilience. So let's hear what she says for 48 seconds.
Everything in this game is designed to help you get stronger by building up your personal resilience. When you're resilient, your body is better able to withstand stress and heal itself. You have the mental focus and determination you need to be successful. You're able to activate positive emotions when you need them most, and you get strength from your friends and family. So why are we so focused on building up your personal resilience? It's all based on scientific research. Study after study shows that resilience is the single most important personal skill that you can develop if you want to be happier, healthier, and more successful in whatever you do.
So I love to just get started with that concept. And so here's how SuperBetter works. Hopefully you've had a chance to log in, maybe start an account. Marnie, are you going along with us here with your own account?
I am not in on the account. I forgot my password, which is giving me stress.
That happens, but trust me, once you get in, it's so easy. Yeah. So here's how it works. Truly, as you get started, it just asks you a couple of great questions. So let's pick one. Stand up and take 3 steps if you're sitting down, or make your hands into fists, raise them over your head as high as you can for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And then I just say, I did it. Okay. So I click on I did it. And then she gives you a nice little, what did you just do? So she talks about your body just got stronger. It's a really quick little blurb. And I love this because you can do it yourself. But I think this would be great for students. What do you think, Jackie?
Absolutely. And she is right on. Resilience is the key. So I love it. Building relationships, making yourself stronger. It's going to reduce stress. Definitely. Right, Marnie?
Absolutely. And the reason I like it is I told you before, I'm not a touchy-feely person. And when I start thinking about this stuff, I kind of just block it out. But I could do these things and I don't feel funny doing them. And they were appropriate that I could absolutely do with my students in person and virtually. So that's why I really like it.
And if you feel funny, it's only 30 seconds. Or for example, snapping your fingers 50 times. I'm going to go with that instead of counting backwards from 100 by 7 because that intimidates me. But you math teachers are out there already counting backwards. I'm sure of it. once you complete this task, you click on I did it, and then it talks about your mind just got stronger. So I encourage you to check out SuperBetter, because we all want to be super better. This is a great website that just keeps you focused, and it can also keep your students focused. So if you see up in the top right here, I've actually earned two badges. I kind of cheated on the second one. I didn't do the whole 50 snaps, but I've done it before. So I encourage you to do that. And then by the end of it, you'll get 4 badges, and then you'll move on and up. You'll level up in this game. So ultimately, Jane McGonigal talks to us about building resilience and rewards us for it. So think about how we use rewards in the classroom. This might be a great way to reward our students as well for taking care of themselves. So again, that's superbetter.com, and that's our tech tool tip of the day. I'm going to move back on over to our presentation and let Jackie talk to us about a lot more tips and tricks. As we do in this presentation, in our webinars, we want to make sure that what we talk about is absolutely aligned with educational theory. And in this case, mental health theory. Jackie, as she said, is working on her PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. And I'm quite sure, Jackie, that you have also had to study some Maslow in this PhD program, right?
Absolutely. So this just goes hand in hand with what we're talking about today, because as professionals and, for our students as well, we're always trying to meet our full potential. That's the goal, self-actualization. But you can't get there unless you're actually fulfilling the basic and the psychological needs. So we're talking a lot about that self-care today. Are you meeting your basic needs that can help you get to your full potential?
And we know that this pyramid is something that all of us as educators have studied before. If our students are not getting those basic physiological and safety needs, then it's really going to be tough for them to learn academic content. So make sure that you're thinking about this theory as we move through taking care of yourself first. It is very important that you take care of you so you can take care of others. All right. Here you go, almost Dr. Strickling. Let's see how this goes.
All right, well, today we're going to talk about 3 main areas, as Corey had mentioned earlier. So we're going to build up your resilience and try and avoid burnout as best as we can. The second thing we're going to do is talk about controlling what you can actually control. So this is a hard thing, because as teachers, it's just human nature. We want to control as much as we can in our classroom. And finally, we're going to discuss setting boundaries, and more specifically, healthy boundaries, so that we can reduce stress and increase your productivity for not only you, but your students as well. All right, so kind of to go along with the SuperBetter, you are all superheroes. And I think it's time, after this 2020 year, that we get our own superhero name. So I want to have a little bit of fun with this. In the chat box, you see the first letter and the last letter. I want to see what everybody's superhero name is. All right? So go ahead and throw it in the chat.
Oh, this is going to be fun, people.
Professor Blaze.
Nice. Of course, see, Marty has to be a professor. That's so awesome. That was like that was just divine intervention right there, Marty.
Agent Skull, the shield. Make sure you all get your superhero name, because we're going to need it as we progress in this session today.
Oh, those are some awesome names. Captain Brain, Professor Falcon, the best. And I have to be, let's see, I am Galactic X. Oh, that sounds like a fun superhero name, right? Oh my gosh. Agent Blade. Oh, Stacy, that's a great name. I think we should take these into our classrooms now. I just like the fact that I have X. It's like the X factor in my name. Aqua Fang, Dr. Peterson, Aqua Fang is your new name. That's fantastic. Agent Brain. That is so great. Oh, I can't express how fun this is just fun. I'm just laughing. This would be kind of fun to do with our students too. Turbo Arrow. Nice, Barbara. The Shield. Deborah, that is just, drop the mic. Agent Skull. Captain Bot. I think some of our kids would love this. The Marvel, the Mandalorian craze. This is great. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Absolutely. All right. Well, superheroes, are we ready to get started?
Let's do this. Galactic X says, move on.
All right. So we're going to first talk with, it's been a crazy year, 2020, right? And in emergency situations, especially when you're on an airplane, you hear the flight attendant say, make sure you put your own oxygen mask on first and then help others. And I think that that's what we need to be talking about today as teachers, educators, administrators. You have to put the mask on first, because if you don't, you won't be able to help everybody else. And that's what's really important. Okay. All right. So let's roll into resiliency. And I know we talked about this with the SuperBetter, which I think was great. So I want you to just for 15 seconds, close your eyes and think about, what does resiliency mean to you? If you had to define it, what would it mean? All right, now I hope you all have that visual image of your definition. So resiliency means being able to adapt well and bounce back under stress. Okay. Now, how close were you to that? Hopefully you guys had some pieces of that. What I do want to talk about is the ACE score. We've got the ACE card up here, which is nice. And I'm sure as educators, you've all heard about the ACE score. It's a 10-question quiz that you take. And the higher the score, that means the more trauma that has impacted you in your life, okay? So, and that means both personal and family-related trauma. Now, what most people don't know is there's actually a resiliency quiz as well. And this is really important, because the higher your resiliency score, the more likely you are able to cope and adapt and bounce back from the trauma. Because it's important to remember, it's not the situation that we're in, it's how we cope and deal with that situation that we're being traumatized with, okay? Now, I think we're going to be sharing this link as well, but it's the 10-question quiz as well as the resiliency. I definitely encourage you guys to take it yourself. And I want to share a story. So I gave a training to some teachers, and we did the quiz and the resiliency test. At the very end, the teacher came up and said, wow, I've always known my ACE score was high, always known. Both my brother and I, we had a high ACE score. But the difference was I was able to get out. I went to college, I was successful, I'm a teacher now. And unfortunately, that didn't happen for my brother. He went down a different path. And I know that we've probably had examples of that in our own lives or families and friends that we know of, where one child in the house was successful and the other one just went a different path. So she told me at that moment, until now, I could not for the life of me understand why. And now I do, because my resiliency score was way higher than his. She said she was a part of her campus, her cheer team. She had teachers and counselors that were supportive, and her brother did not. That wasn't a path he took. So I say that to say, this is how important we are as educators, teachers, counselors, and that healthy relationship is truly what builds resiliency. That's what helps our kids. And I've had another teacher mention to me as well, this training totally changed the way she looks at those students that are struggling in class now. Because now the important step is knowing her students and building the trust, because then they will return that. So.
That is a really powerful story. And I have to say that I didn't even realize the resilience questions were at the ACE website. So, and I also, you know, as a teacher have been really fast, you know, go through the ACE quickly and then forget this piece, this, what you're saying is the key piece to the ACE scores. Thank you for that. That's definitely a different concept. Okay.
Well, to go along with the resiliency, I want to just give a few quick tips, okay, that can help reduce burnout for you as a teacher or an educator. The first is building a teacher community, which I think is probably the most important thing. Again, this is relationships. So having somebody in your community that you can reach out to on a daily basis, and I know it's really hard right now, or virtual. You're probably thinking, how do I keep that teacher community going? So I wanted to share one of my tips, which I think has been very helpful for me and for my colleague that I actually use this tip with. So every morning, we actually start a Google Meet. And we leave that meet up all day. Now we exit the meet if we need to, but we work, we talk, we laugh about life, we bounce different ideas off of each other, but it's a connection. And we're constantly communicating and having that relationship piece that we truly do need. It's human nature. We want to be around people. We want to be social, and we're missing that component virtually. And I know in the teaching community, it's a little bit harder, obviously, with having classes, but even if you had a buddy who you had a Google Meet with, if that's the option you use, in between classes, or maybe checking in on each other during prep time, those are valuable opportunities for you.
So it could be, so Google Meet is the Google platform. It could be a Zoom, it could be Microsoft Teams, but whatever virtual platform you use, you just turn on, it's like a room. It's like a virtual room. Y'all are like working in an office next to each other. That's kind of the idea, right?
Yep, absolutely. And then I just exit the meeting if I have to jump into another one, and I leave it on there so that I can always go right back to her. We don't have to restart anything.
And I love what Marnie just popped in the chat. Yes, even our introverted teachers need a little chat time. And Marnie and I actually, that is a great idea, because sometimes we'll come early to a meeting or leave late because we want the connection. So what you're saying is build in the connection. Great idea.
Yeah. And then just a couple other ones on here I'll point out. Learning from experience, and I think this is just critical right now as we're going through the pandemic. What have you learned as a teacher during this? How have you adapted? How have you bounced back? And then taking those and running with them. One of my favorite things for building resiliency is controlling your calendar. And I'm one of those to-do lists, controlling the calendar. It helps me stay organized. I'm not sure if anybody else feels that way. But I think it's important that as teachers, we give up all of our free time. We give up our lunch and our prep because we want to help kids. It's just human nature. So if you can use your calendar to actually block out your lunchtime, block out your prep hour, then that way you're giving time to you. You're eating your lunch, you're getting refreshed, and you're preparing for your students for the next class. So that's kind of my tip. I definitely love the calendar option, whichever one you use.
Great tip. Great tip. I wish I could control mine even more so than I do now.
All right. So just the other ones on here, you can write down: embrace change, take a risk, and take care of yourself. Definitely. All right. So it's about time to have some fun. So if you have that piece of paper handy, we're going to talk about what you can control and you can't control. So I want you to make a big circle. Use the whole paper. And then you're going to do a smaller circle inside of that big circle. All right.
I'm circling.
Okay. Everybody's got their circle ready.
More of an oval, but it'll work. It'll work.
It'll work. Now, as educators, we want to control our classroom. That's just who we are, human nature. We want to do that. We want to make sure the kids are doing everything they're supposed to. But in reality, there's some things we can't control. So I want you to think about your classroom setting or your work environment at this point. And on the outside of the circle, I want you to think about what is really out of your control. What is not your responsibility? And when you're thinking about this, think about people's words, people's ideas, people's consequences to actions, okay? These are things that are out of your control. For example, Joey turning in his homework. You can't control him turning in his homework. Spend a few minutes doing that. And then once you get going, the inside of the circle is really about what you can control. And this is just the reverse side of it. So you can control your own ideas, your own thoughts, your own behaviors, your own consequences to your own actions. Okay? So we'll give you a few minutes, fill that whole circle in.
You know, as people are doing this, Jackie, and as I'm doing it myself, and I'm very frustrated because my circle is not a circle, it's lopsided.
So is that in your control? Is that in your control?
Yes, that's in my control. I could have made a better circle. You know, as I was writing it, I instantly went to the classroom because I taught so much project-based learning and students were always in teams. And if you've ever taught students who are in teams, you know some of the complaints that they have about their team members. What a great exercise to do with students as they're working in teamwork.
Absolutely.
If someone else doesn't do their work, that's not in your control, not your responsibility. And and you really have to work through that, because they start to complain, well, does my grade depend on them doing their work? Well, maybe a tiny bit, but as a teacher, I can't also punish a student on a team. So that's also thinking about my practice, like how do I make an authentic project when there's things out of the student's control. Sorry, I kind of really just went there as I was doing.
That's great. That's great. You're right on it. I think this is a great activity to do with teams in school, for sure.
And I don't know about y'all, but I wrote COVID-19 and pandemic outside of my control. So however, if I have to teach online, in person, a hybrid, so much of that is out of my control. So it helped me, Jackie, to say, I can do the best that I can. Like that's all I can control, whether or not I come to the table and do the best I can. That does not mean it's going to be perfect, but I can at least do the best that I can, right?
Absolutely. All right, so I think we're going to go to the next slide, and I'd love to hear from everybody in the room. So regarding what is not your responsibility, and you might have been stuck, didn't know what to put out there. So if you want to throw a couple things in the chat box that you know you can't control, but it's always bugged you, go ahead and do that, because I think sharing is important, and maybe it might trigger something for someone else. So what is not your responsibility? What did you guys come up with from the classroom setting?
And we don't have too many people here today, so if you want to unmute and let us know, feel free to do that. Yes, Michelle, technology issues. Agreed. Not our responsibility.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Was somebody talking there and I talked over them?
Yeah, I think these are all great. And of course, can't control students doing their homework. You can't control the students coming to class, right? And I know that's a big worry for teachers right now, since we are emergency remote teaching.
Good point. Board decisions. Yeah, Allison. If they made a decision, you have to roll with it as a teacher. That's so true. That's hard. Home life variables, especially, Micah. Very good point. Yes, Michelle, in-person, virtual. I hear you. State, district expectations, student attendance. Thank you for saying that out loud, Deborah. That's a tough one, right, Jackie? We feel like as a teacher, I think sometimes we put that on our shoulders. They're not attending because of me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Look at Dr. Peterson, how someone else responds to us, not our responsibility.
Although, and I'll add this vocally, although that's not our responsibility, it is then our responsibility how we respond to them and how we set the tone, wherever that may be.
Really good point.
Absolutely. So now go ahead and throw in the chat box, what is your responsibility? And I think Dr. Peterson, you've got a great one to throw in there, right?
Yeah, tardiness. You got to be on time. Oh, I like it. I like that goes along with that picture, Marnie.
Yeah.
Navigating the waves. I like that, Michelle. My desire, we are active members in this crazy ocean that we find ourselves in right now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, your desire to navigate that change, your, dare I say it, resilience.
All right, these are all great. So let's go ahead and proceed. And now I want to give you just a few things that you can control, and that's regarding your body, your mind, and your classroom. And these might be some things you want to add to your responsibility. But breathing, that's number one. How you control your breathing, that's within your wheelhouse. Positive self-talk, and positivity right now is so important, especially with everything we're dealing with. So reminding yourself and giving positive affirmations. Your body language, how you look when you're talking to another person. You have complete control over those nonverbal cues that you're giving. Obviously, your diet, your sleep patterns, your fitness, those are all within your control. Now, when it comes to the classroom, you're in control of setting the high expectations and maintaining those. That's what you've set as a standard. establishing class norms and regular routines. Kids love routines. As much as they fight it, they actually like that discipline and crave it, and the responsibility that they're given. Other things such as modeling your ideal behavior. So if you want kids to do things a certain way, you should be modeling it that way as well. And encouraging initiative, getting the kids to take a risk and go for it. You can set that up for them and give them a choice, which I meant to mention earlier, Corey. I really like the SuperBetter when it does 2 options. Because again, people like choice. They don't want to be told, no, that's the only way you can do it. They want choice.
Really good point. I always want choice. Marnie, what were you going to say?
You went through several items there. I was thinking about the personal ones, like the body and the mind. And who was it that said in the chat? Was it Michelle that said, my desire to navigate the change? So, you know, you're saying these things like, I have control over my body and my mind. But there's a big disconnect. I know with me, like from I might have want to change it and I know what's right to do, but do you have some tips about that? Getting from here to there, or at least starting to get from here to there from a psychological point of view?
Yeah, I would say it's the next tip I have in line here, and that is setting boundaries.
Oh, sorry, I was not trying to jump there.
No, you're right on, and that is the hardest thing. Making change is hard, and when we're trying to do change in a pandemic and everything is different, it's even harder, right? But setting boundaries is a healthy way to get on the right track. Okay, so whether that's establishing healthy relationships and cutting people out of your kind of relationship wheelhouse that are not healthy for you is important. I know that's hard. And being assertive is probably one of the hardest things that we have to do as teachers, and saying no. We don't like to say no, okay? But that's something that would probably be the first step to being able to adjust and get on the right track, is being able to say no. And I like this quote that's up here. When you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself. Because every time you say yes, you're giving up your own personal time. So is that really worth it, you know, for you? Is that the self-care is more important, taking care of yourself at that time? So along with setting boundaries, this helps reduce stress. And also, this comes to defining our work and our home space. And I think this is probably the hardest thing that people are dealing with today. Is anybody else? Because I'm working out of my dining room right now. Anyone else? Okay. So obviously we're working and living in the same place. So how do we separate those? How do we, as I like to say, and we're going to go into the next slide here, but for me, mentally and physically, I have to tell myself something so that I can shut down work for the day. And I like to call that flipping the switch. Okay. So, and literally I get up from the dining room table and I flip the switch and I walk out of the room, because guess what? The work is always going to be here. It's still going to be on my desk, on my dining room table when I come back tomorrow. So I can only do what I can in a certain amount of hours, as best I can. And then I've got to leave because I have family. I've got a little daughter who needs me too, right? And I need myself.
So I'm going to keep this lovely GIF up while we think about flipping the switch for a minute. Yes?
Absolutely. So in the chat box, I want you guys to think about what would work for you physically and mentally. What can you do at home to get up and shut down your work for the day and leave? It doesn't have to be flipping the switch. It can be something else. But I think sharing ideas is a good idea. So maybe you already have something that you do. So let's go ahead and share what you guys have.
So the question is, how do you flip the switch? And yep. I will remove this lovely GIF after y'all put something in the chat. That's kind of a force feed, isn't it, Marnie? That might not be the best way to mentally care for our audience members, but what do you got?
Especially since I'm having a hard time coming up with something. As you sit here, I'm like, I don't even have a technique for that because I just stand here and work.
There it is. Okay, so close my computer. Thanks, Barbara. That's a great idea. Golf tea time. Yes. Set time to the end of the day and make sure that I keep the appointment with myself. That goes along with what you said about calendars.
Yep.
To-do list for the next. That's awesome. The to-do list. Make it a point to stop at the end of the day. Setting boundaries. Oh, those are great. That's enough for me to move on to the next slide. But really great. Keep putting those in there. We all need help flipping that switch.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot today. So the key idea is once you guys have built up your resiliency, you understand what you can actually control and not control. And then you start to set healthy boundaries. We now need to let everything else go. Okay. So on a piece of paper, whether the back side of your circle or a new piece of paper, everything that's come up today that you're like, I gotta let it go. I gotta let that go. I have no control over it. Write it down. Write it down. Go ahead. 1 minute. All right, how are we doing? Everybody ready? Got a few things on there that you know, okay, it's time to let go of that for me. All right. Well, in fitting fashion, putting the oxygen mask on first for you, right? As educators, taking care of yourself. I want you to make me the best paper airplane that you can out of that piece of paper.
Oh, this is the STEM part. I appreciate you putting some STEM into our webinar on mental health. Thank you, Jackie.
Absolutely. So let's see these fancy airplanes.
All right, I only had time to write just a few things. I could go on for a while, but I'm going to now focus on my airplane.
All right. So what we want to do now is on the count of 3, everybody's going to put those paper airplanes up in the air.
All right, I'm ready.
On the count of 3, we're going to let it go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let it go.
Does anybody else want to sing the song from Elsa? Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is a really important thing. You can let it go and let something fly that's been bothering you, or you can roll it up and throw it in the trash can. So I think that's really important. It just kind of physically separates it from you.
Yes, if you're a perfectionist and making that airplane was very difficult, you can make a very nice snowball.
Yes.
And it goes along with Frozen too. I love that.
Very nice. Well, we know we can't stop the wave, but we can definitely learn how to surf, right? And I think we're all riding that pandemic wave right now. We're doing a great job, you superhero teachers. So thank you very much. You guys are all amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing for our students today, especially in these unprecedented times. And this has been great.
Jackie, oh my gosh, I definitely have gotten some wonderful tips and thoughts and, really a mindset that you shared with us today about taking care of ourselves. I'm going to remember Brene Brown. I'm going to remember that oxygen mask. I'd love to know what you all are going to remember from today's tips. While you're thinking of those things that you're remembering, I hope that today you have learned how to improve your self-care first so that you can care for your students. We hope that you've learned some strategies to build resiliency and avoid burnout, to control what you can control, always hard for this one right here, and to set boundaries to reduce stress and increase productivity. I'm going to remember flipping the switch. Please don't go anywhere. We need you to evaluate this webinar, tell us what you want to see more of, and earn that PD certificate. In addition to that, we will be staying around for a little while for a question and answer as well. And we have Peter Mocher in the house today to end us in prayer. So what have you got, you guys, in the chat? Pop it in there. What are you going to remember from today's tips and tricks from Jackie Strickling? Wow, really, really cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, Marnie, what is in my circle of control? So please pop that into the chat for us. Yes, thank you, Cindy. Letting go. Yes, thank you, Amy. I totally agree. Separate what we can and cannot control. Dr. Peterson, and in more effective if I take care of me. That's so true. We all are more effective if we take care of ourselves first. Speaking of taking care of ourselves and making our jobs even a little bit easier, I do not want you to forget that next month, February 10th from 12 to 1, we will be hosting PBS Learning Media. Wow, there is a plethora of information on this site, and we're going to make it really easy to navigate with Cheryl Gherkin. Also on March 10th, GCU College of Education will join us. They'll talk a little bit about how you can improve your productivity in the classroom. And we'd love to know what topics you're interested in. We have yet to decide those topics for April 14th and for May 12th. So feel free to put that into the evaluation as we move through. There is an evaluation coming up here, and I think Amanda has put that into the chat. Don't forget, folks, we do this for a purpose. Our why is to empower, educate, and inspire our community so that they take action to fulfill their purpose and serve others. So thank you for being our community, and thank you for serving others. As Jackie so eloquently said, we appreciate what you do every day for kids. Don't forget that this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel, so share it with your teacher colleagues. You know, the ones who need to hear it the most. Jackie's got a few that she works with every day, I'm quite sure of it. Thank you again for your expertise, Jackie, and this will be live on the web. Just after this webinar, Amanda is fantastic about putting that up into the cloud ASAP. This webinar is called Self-Care, so please go on over to that evaluation, title it Self-Care, and let us know what you thought.